Welcome to our latest episode of Behind the Curtain with the Sound on Stage. I'm Greg Heilman, and I'm excited to have today's guests on the show. The first is Rachel Noll James, known locally for her work both on stage and on the screen. A co-founder of Emergence Films, her latest project, Inheritance, has been seen recently on the indie theater circuit and can be rented or purchased on most major streaming platforms, while her performance on stage in Lizzie the Rock musical with Just Us Girls garnered our very first award for ensemble performance in a musical back in 2022. And my second guest is familiar to many for her roles in film and television, from Marty Maraschino in Grease to Elaine Lefkowitz in Soap, for those of us who remember that show. I'm Invisible. And Carol Weston in Empty Nest. But Dinah Manoff is also a writer, and she's bringing her latest work in progress to the stage in Bainbridge Performing Arts in a staged reading from August 15th to the 17th. The Messenger is a co-production from Bainbridge Performing Arts and Bitlab, Bainbridge Island Theater Lab, and features Catherine Rush, Elizabeth Mitchell, Ruby Ricisak, and the voice of Jeff Farris in the staged reading that is directed by Rachel. So, first of all, welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's great to talk to you. Great to meet you, Dinah, and see you again, Rachel.
Likewise.
And well, first of all, for those that are unaware, I mentioned this is a staged reading, and I'll leave this either to one of you. Can you describe what exactly a staged reading is, and if people want to go, what they should expect to see from this versus, say, a fully fleshed out production?
You, Rachel, you take this one.
Okay. Basically, what it means is they're going to be seeing a work in progress. So the actors will have scripts in front of them. They will be standing at music stands or podiums and reading the lines off the script. So there will be, still a performative element. The actors will be interacting with each other. But what this allows is for Dinah to make real-time adjustments each night. And then the actors, will get new scripts each night should she have changes. And it gives us a chance to really iterate throughout the course of the workshop series, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. So before we get to that actual, the process, Dinah, a question for you. How long have you been working on this? And when did the idea of the Messenger come to you?
Well, I've been working on it. I guess we're about a little over 2 years in on drafts. The idea came to me during a period where the MAGA movement was on the rise, and I had a very dear friend who was dying of cancer. And both of those things made me feel very powerless and enraged. And so I found that I needed to express myself, and as a writer, the place I went was to the computer, and I started to work on this, fictionalized version, like where I could take control of the narrative, which was being put on me. And I took control of the narrative for myself, and this play was born out of that. And it has had listen, when this play started, it had 14 characters. Now we have 3. So that's how far one comes in 2 years working in this medium. It's very fluid, and I'm really excited about this reading because I have a very good, solid draft now that we're going in. And for me to have the opportunity to be part of an audience response at this stage of the game is like collaborating now with the audience to see what's landing, what's not landing. And you can't know that. It's not like when you write a novel and you send it out there and, you get an email feedback. This way, in real time, what's happening on the written page. It has to be expressed, and it has to have an audience. All those things, all those elements are necessary in order to know, as the writer, where to go next.
And Rachel, how long have you been involved in the project?
I was trying to remember, Dinah, when we first did the table read of this. I feel like it was a year
ago, over a year ago. Yeah.
About a year. So we had the privilege of reading aloud, just kind of over tea at Cappy's house, just a version of this a year ago. And I just really loved it. And we've been able to kind of step through Dinah's process over the last year as part of the Bitlab team. And I was very flattered earlier this year when we went to meet with Elizabeth and Dinah asked me to direct it. So I'm very excited and honored to get to just help shape this with Dinah and the cast and bring it to the stage. One other thing I didn't mention about the staged reading that I think will also be really interesting for audiences and a unique experience is that we actually will have a feedback form via a QR code that after they watch the show each night, they'll have a chance to actually give their thoughts in answer to some specific questions about the play.
Like
So
a
if
film
anyone
screening.
does, exactly. And if anybody does, come more than once, they might actually get the chance to see, some of that feedback implemented and changed in future iterations. So it's kind of a cool part of the process to be involved with.
Very cool. Well, for staged reading, what is the job of a director? I mean, I think everybody's pretty familiar with in a full play and all that, but in something like this, what are you responsible for shaping on stage?
Such a good question. I mean, it's very collaborative with Dinah at this stage. So I feel like she and I are working very closely together. But basically it's, we're going to have minimal rehearsals with the cast, but it's just a chance to plant some seeds and ideas in terms of just the performance and the relationships between these characters. And it's great having Dinah in the room as well because she can help inform those conversations. So I feel like it's a very collaborative role and certainly less involved than a full production, but still important.
Sure.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I love having Rachel in particular directing, one, because she's a really good director and a really good actress and writer. So, we have shorthand together that I might not have with somebody else. And also, because Rachel comes from all those talents, she can see stuff in the material that I may not see. She can see beats. She can see stuff moments that can work that I probably haven't even thought of. So it's just gravy for me.
Awesome. Uh, yeah, and I mean, I imagine there's ways of, and you said not many rehearsals with the cast, and we'll talk about the cast in a little bit. But I guess yeah, ways of inflection and things like that that can make something. This is a very, it sounds like a very strong play, um, and I think ways of speaking that maybe bring that message home a little bit further versus another way. I can imagine is something that you're keeping an eye on.
Definitely. And I mean, we have an incredible cast who all have a lot of experience. And so it's, working with actors like that is just so incredible because you just give them a suggestion and then they take it and they make it their own. And that's the best, it's like I really prefer whenever directing to be able to give those little thoughts of like, think about, where your mindset is here, just giving them things that then inform that they will naturally find how it should sound and feel, but just giving them those thoughts, those feelings, those ideas. Like when I'm an actor, I love when directors give me those little bites, just things that get my head turning in a different way, and it can change everything in a scene.
Um,
Also, I want to say about Elizabeth Mitchell, who is playing basically the protagonist in the play. She plays the part of Thea. Elizabeth has been working on this with me for over a year and a half. I first called her when I had this play in a playwriting workshop on Zoom. And I called Elizabeth and I said, listen, could you do me just this biggest favor? And could you just read this for this Zoom workshop? And it was like the part had been written for her. And hearing her read it informed me about who the character was in a way I hadn't seen before. So she has been collaborating with me on this play now. So when we say, we're doing a short rehearsal period, yes, but we have been working on this for quite some time.
Yeah.
yeah, and going actually back to the casting, I guess we can visit that with Elizabeth Mitchell. One of the things I've seen from her work in TV and film is how expressive she is with emotions, and I gather with the character of Thea, it's important to have that, and she probably brings a lot of that to the table, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, she has gravitas in her as a human and as an actress, and I'm very lucky to have her in this part.
One thing that's beautiful about watching her work and in this role in particular is she has such easy access to her emotions. And so you can just see, even just sitting across the table from her, like these moments they live in her and like it's beautiful. So she brings a lot of nuance, a lot of depth, and just, she has so much experience and just so that, like Dinah said, that gravitas and that that just kind of self-awareness and confidence is just, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a very, very good role for her. And I do think it's, yeah, Dinah, you wrote an amazing role.
Thank you.
And the great thing is everybody is sort of on Bainbridge Island. So I imagine
Best of all, we're all on Bainbridge Island and we don't have to get on the ferry to go anywhere. So we're all really grateful for that.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of, in your writing, any sort of flair? Because I know I mentioned, Rachel, with your one film, how it felt like the Pacific Northwest, or it felt like Bainbridge Island. Is there some of that flavor in this?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I don't know if it will, last the next draft, but for right now, it is pretty locally based. Though, who knows?
Next year they'll be in Paducah.
Yeah. There's a lot of action on Bainbridge. There's a lot of mention of Wenatchee, a lot of mention of Suquamish. You'll see.
Awesome. And not the Hallmark Channel version where it's actually Vancouver, but they say it's Bainbridge.
Yeah.
Correct. The real deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So reading the synopsis of The Messenger, it sounds, and you mentioned it a little bit, it sounds extremely timely. You're setting two politically opposite individuals together in a relationship that's ultimately probably one of the most vulnerable, with a patient and caregiver. When you were balancing those two aspects, the political side of it and sort of the relationship side of it, did you try to keep those evenly in balance, or did you focus on one a little more than the other? And then did you find yourself wrestling with that as you went through?
I think I'm still wrestling with it. I think that's the process. I mean, that's why we're, 8 drafts in, because, what started as one play with, one point of view. Plus, every day the news comes up with something more outrageous. So when you think you've written something outrageous, it's like, whoa, that's yesterday's news. I've had to be very adaptable in terms of, because this is a very political piece. The play is the relationship. The play has to be the relationship. That's dramatic tension. Somebody has to want something from someone else, or somebody has to be putting up an obstacle to somebody else in order for there to be theater, right? So the relationship is always primary. Within that, it is very a big challenge for me how to put in the politics without it sounding like a lecture or like, informational or,
Yeah. Sometimes.
Also, it's a comedy. I mean, to some extent, it's not a dour evening. It has its laughs. So, there's also that tone that I wanted to keep light in it, because, you're dealing with a woman with cancer and you're dealing with a new fascist government. So, you gotta
laugh.
It's not inherently funny. So, well, that's good, because then, it makes it more human. Because even in all of our tribulations, there's always humor. So
have to.
Yeah. So we talked about Elizabeth Mitchell and in the one role, but we've also got Ruby. Is it Ricisak? Did I pronounce that correctly?
I think so.
And then Catherine Rush. How did the casting of those two come about?
Cappy, so Catherine Rush, who goes by Cappy, she's a member of Bitlab, and she has been part of the readings and the iterations over the last year with Dinah. And I think it actually was just a few readings back that she read the role for the first time. And we just both thought she did a tremendous job and really embodied the character. And so we invited her to do it. And then Ruby came on a little bit later, because I cast Ruby in Catherine's play Magpie earlier this year. And then Ruby was just in Macbeth with me. So her work was very fresh in mind. And so I brought her to Dinah, and she did a little reading for her, just kind of impromptu on a picnic bench. And Dinah was like, yep, the role is yours. So the rest was
marvelous. Wonderful actress. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, and for those, we've mentioned Bitlab a few times here. Could you give us a little explanation, a little background on Bitlab?
Dinah, you want to take that one?
No. No. You go.
Yeah, so I think it's been about a year. It's basically a year ago. So I have been working with Cappy for some time, and I've been wanting to get her play Magpie produced. And I had connected with Dinah kind of separately through my film Ingress, and I wanted them to meet. And I had just been working with Sabrina Fiander and her husband Pete Benson on some other things. And so we all got together one day at the Harbor Public House just to all meet because I wanted Cappy to meet some other playwrights, and I knew Dinah was working on a play and people who were involved in theater. And I think it was just over the course of that interaction, we were all discussing how it would be really neat to have a group on the island that was focused on new works by local playwrights. There was so much talent, and to just have an opportunity to showcase that local talent wasn't really something we were seeing beyond the 10-minute play festival, which obviously is a beautiful thing Island Theater does. But in terms of full-length plays, um, so we kind of just started this collaboration, and Dinah had the brilliant idea of taking it to Elizabeth Allam at BPA, who immediately just was incredibly receptive and gave us use of this studio space. And so Magpie earlier this year was our first production, and we had a great reception from audiences. You know, it's nice in the studio space because you kind of have the opportunity to put on a different sort of play that maybe challenges people in a different way than they would maybe put up on the main stage. And we were just really thrilled that Elizabeth and the BPA team were open to having that space be used in that way. And so we're very excited to do Dinah's as our second iteration, and then we'll see how it grows from there.
Yeah, I think it was in my review for Outside Mullingar when I went to see that at the it was their first event in the studio area, that how they're filling a niche, which on the Seattle side there's plenty of opportunity, I think, for new playwrights to put up their new works, but over on this side, the peninsula and even up north, it really isn't. And this is a really nice forum in which to do that, and they've taken advantage of it. And people that aren't familiar with all the greatness of BPA will be able to see it when we have our awards on September 15th. That got moved from Tacoma to Bainbridge because Elizabeth was and her team was kind enough to welcome us there. So that's going to be fun.
Well, Indie Theater's been doing a lot of stuff over the years in Rolling Bay Hall, and I've done
Yeah.
stuff for Rolling Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the chance, Frank, the theater, Frank,
And
thank you.
mhm.
And my mom did a reading of the Gin Game at Rolling Bay 7 years ago, whenever that was, some time ago. And, I've been wanting to have a small theater space on the island since I moved here 20 years ago, because that's the place where you can really fail and succeed, but, have audiences really be part of, the theater experience rather than just the bigger, field of entertainment. And, BPA has to make money. They have to do, a certain amount of commercial pieces every year in order to make their nut. It's super important. And the audiences want that, and the local actors want to be able to partake in that. But for some of us, we just want to mess around and we just want to go to rehearsal in a little dark space and go, look what we did, and then, move on to something else.
Well, that's great, and yeah, that's always the whenever I talk to artistic directors, I always talk about the balance between filling seats and making money versus putting up things that are important or that matter. It's obviously that's subjective, but yeah, this gives them the opportunity to do both because they have both of those um, stages, sort of like Taproot has with their Isaac Studio and their Jewel Main stage over
Yeah.
in Seattle.
Definitely. Yeah.
So we're gonna assume you've got a successful weekend next week, and I think I'm planning on coming to this Sunday.
Oh, good, to the talk back. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
that's great. I'm so looking forward to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are those fun for playwrights and other creators? I'll let both of you answer that because you've both been involved in that sort of.
Hopefully.
I guess if everything goes well, it's
We'll see.
I mean, it is interesting. We did it for Magpie, and I got to sit up there with Cappy. After it's interesting because obviously you're kind of just opening it up to audience feedback in a very real way, which can be a lot of fun and also very insightful in terms of what people are taking away and what has hit people emotionally. And during Magpie, we had a couple of people who got in an argument with each other in the audience about the meaning of something, which was really interesting. So it allows for a very like real time feedback moment. And also Elizabeth Allen was moderating. She asks really great questions. And I think that's the moderator's a big part of it too, just in terms of how the conversation is steered. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to hearing how people are receiving this play. I think they're going to love it.
I'm really interested to see how it's received.
Yeah.
It sounds fascinating, and I bet it's relatable to probably 95% of the people on one side or the other. We all have those relatives that are maybe on the opposite end of the political spectrum, and um, trying to work through relationships with them is challenging. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. As soon as I saw the synopsis, I thought it looked good. Then I didn't even know it was going to be funny. Also at that point, so
Yes,
that's just one
hopefully.
added layer. Yeah. So
You'll let us know.
what's the plan then afterwards? So this is the staged reading. Do you plan on having more of these? Similar to Rachel, what you would do with film screenings or things like that with your stuff, um, or do you start to put this together and start to plan on a fully, fleshed out production?
Well, depending on how I feel about this draft, if I think it's ready after this iteration, this weekend, I will probably be going to whatever the next step is, to be looking for a place to produce it. Uh, um, who knows where, hopefully with Elizabeth, who is, very interested in staying with it. But this is a new adventure for me as well. I haven't been a playwright before, trying to get a play produced. And so yes, I will let you know what happens next when I
No,
know.
we'll keep an eye out for sure. Is there anything else you're working on beyond this right now, or is this kind of taking up all of your creative oxygen?
Well, Rachel's always working on 25
Oh,
things.
yeah.
She's unbelievable. Me, no, this is lucky to get up in the morning, do this, and, go to bed. So take it, Rachel.
Oh my gosh. Well, actually, I'm in a bit of a lull at the moment, but I'm in development right now on my next feature, which is a female witchy Western called Ash and Ember that we're hoping to shoot in the spring in Washington. It's kind of an exploration of women who were persecuted as witches in the 1800s and kind of, the othering of women and the fear of sort of feminine power and how it was repressed. And then kind of a story about a midwife who's accused of being a witch and has to escape, and kind of how she reclaims that witchy power, takes back, what's her anyway. So it's yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's a very different take on a Western, and I think a nice follow-up to Ingress, even though it's a very different world, as far as like the second film I produce or I direct. I feel like it'll have a nice progression in terms of the types of stories that I like to dig my teeth into.
Are you writing that one too?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I can't. So first of all, we have next weekend, which is The Messenger at Bainbridge Performing Arts on the August 15th through the 17th. So that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And I think there's a preview on the 14th. It's a pay what you can preview on the 14th
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
If people are interested in tickets for that, they can head out to BPA's website, which we'll link here in the show notes. Is there any way that, and I know, Rachel, I think you've got about 5 different places we could probably find out about what you're doing online. There's Emergence Films. You're out on social media. Where's the best place for people to go?
For me or for Dinah?
For you first, and then we'll get to Dinah.
Oh, for me. Emergence Films, social media is always like the most immediate. If you can follow me on Instagram or Emergence Films on Instagram, we always post what we're up to. But on our Emergence Films website, if you join our newsletter, we try to not spam anyone with too much information, but we do send out a newsletter usually about once a quarter, just with updates and upcoming screenings and things that are going on. So if you join that newsletter, that's a great way to stay in the loop.
Awesome. And how about you, Dinah? Are you out there on the social medias?
I am as little as possible out there on social media, but when I do have something, I do post on my Instagram on Dinah Manoff or on Facebook. I think it's the Dinah Manoff on both. So yeah.
Excellent.
Otherwise, we'll have to wait till you interview us again, and then I'll tell you what's happening next.
Well, yes, we'll have to do this again. This has been fun, and I cannot wait for the show and to meet you in person and to see you again, Rachel.
Yes, definitely.
So the play is The Messenger. It's a staged reading on stage at the Sears Studio at Bainbridge Performing Arts. Preview on August 14th. Performances August 15th through the 17th. And once again, Dinah Manoff and Rachel Noll James, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this, what looks like a fascinating piece of work.
Thank you so much for having us.
Greg.
And for those of you watching, thank you again. This has been Greg Heilman with The Sound on Stage. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Behind the Curtain. Until next time, I will see you at the stage door.